I've never been what people might call a team player, nor do I enjoy the idea of conforming to ideas that I disagree with or don't think seem logical or constructive. Whether I was a performer, DJ, or a desk clerk, I always went my own way, and that doesn't go well with other team players. Deciding to become a stay-at-home dad kind of, whether I liked it or not, pushed me into that team player mentality where a large group of people come together over a mutual idea. Now, I've never been a father before, certainly not a stay-at-home dad, and I haven't even been around babies a lot or at all in my life. If there was ever the need for support from a community of peers, this was it. The missus encouraged me to join a stay-at-home dad Facebook group. Hesitant, but trying to keep an open mind, I joined. At first, I took a passive role, trying to feel the vibe of the rhetoric. A few weeks into it, the negativity that poured out of these poor souls was way more than I anticipated or tolerated. Had I not been so excited about becoming a father and a stay-at-home dad, this group of people would have pulled me down to the point of panic. If they weren't bashing themselves, they were bashing their wives and in-laws or companies with mother-oriented promotions and advertisements. Most advice that came from the responses seemed to center around the commiserating and comparing of who had it the worst, combined with a couple of keep it up, hang in there, and a few leave and get full custody. Now don't get me wrong, some posts were actually pleasant, positive, and encouraging, but they were few and rare. I finally decided to speak up, but rather than sharing misery, I was encouraging them to talk to their spouses and taking constructive actions rather than writing lengthy word bombs online, laced with passive aggressiveness just to have a group of guys giving out empty compliments and reassurances. Most of what I said fell to deaf ears, with the exception of a few thumbs up. It was obvious that they were more interested in hearing how good they were instead of facing the music. So I decided to look around outside of this group and try to catch the vibe of the stay-at-home dads in the world. To my great disappointment, I found that the rhetoric and tendencies were similar wherever I looked. There was this general grumpiness and dissatisfaction that saturated all the content that I found. Extreme polarities of devoted fathers and superhero wannabes, as if doing what women have been doing for millions of years, suddenly made them worthy of a medal. Now, I don't know about you, but my approach is that of something more grounded. I have no illusions about what it means to be a father or a stay-at-home dad. I know there will be good days and bad days. I know there will be puke and poop and giggles and laughs and sunshine and rain. But in the same way that I don't walk barefoot in the snow or wear a winter jacket to the beach in summer and get angry at the weather for not being what I want it to be, I plan to control, embrace, or adapt to what happens. I mean, this world is falling apart. Obesity is killing us if ISIS isn't. And with all that in mind, how can I make my world so small, so petty, and so negative? With so many bad things going on in the world, why are we holding grudges and starting fights over the lack of changing rooms for babies in men's bathrooms? Why do we fall for the temptation of getting snarky and self-righteous just because someone asks if we're babysitting today? Like it or not, being a stay-at-home dad means being a minority rarer than vegans at McDonald's. Why infect that privilege with negativity and anger just because restaurants and businesses don't cater for us fathers out there yet? I mean, we are so few that people who see us outside think we're just babysitting, and if you tell them you're a stay-at-home dad, they'll be genuinely surprised. And yes, I know there's a stigma that comes with being a stay-at-home dad of, not being a real man. Like it or not, that's the way it is right now, but this will change. The thing is though, you only have this one life to have kids and raise them, and while it's important that you play an active role and help educating people on gender roles and breaking barriers, you are wasting precious time and energy which you could be spending loving and caring for and developing your family relationships. Now I realize all scenarios are not the same and everyone is not blessed with great partners, families, and in-laws. but there's almost always a glass half empty or a glass half full aspect to be considered, and I urge you to choose the most constructive and productive one. Going back to the group on Facebook, over the weekend someone made a comment about the validity and masculinity of some of the fathers in the group. While using less diplomatic words than I am right now, he was of the opinion that the stay-at-home dads in the group were just bitching and whining about everything. To some extent, I agree with that sentiment. There are different ways of seeking support. One is to light everything on fire and bark at the flames. The other is to try to identify the issue, fix what's broken, or throw it out and start over, if possible. What happened was how it usually goes. The guy was banned from the group because he spoke his mind, and it was easier to get rid of him rather than facing the discussion of how destructive it is to have a large group of people lighting things on fire. To counteract the previously mentioned guy, a thread was started for all war veterans to state their position, rank, and experience. Many of them being directly involved in the Middle Eastern conflict that has ultimately decimated my bloodline and for some people eradicated it completely. So for me, as a man of peace and a descendant of few survivors of the Assyrian people, this was a provocation beyond my patience. So there we were, a group of men dedicating our lives to creating and shaping lives and making homes while bragging about seeing action and showing gratitude for those who were a part of it. I lashed out at them and sarcastically thanked them for bearing responsibility to destabilizing an entire region of the world, and that has led to the murder, mutilation, and rape of millions of people. Needless to say, I was banned.